Hello, Will Thunder Talks here with another video. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. So recently, I went to see the Foo Fighters. Those that fight the Foo. Dave Grohl and the gang in Berlin, Germany. So I flew over to Berlin, Germany, and I hung out there for a good week. The concert was right in the middle of the week. It was pretty cool. I really enjoyed it. I thought that I would talk a little bit about some of my thoughts at the concert, but also larger ideas about Mr. Grohl and the gang. So something I want to start with is, I guess, the experience of the set. The set was sick. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of a delay due to a pending thunderstorm, and everyone was evacuated from the ground during the event. And that was kind of exciting for me, to be honest. But there was also Fat Dog and Idols, I think, also played. I wasn't there in time for Fat Dog. Didn't see Fat Dog. Put my hands up right there, right now, say I didn't see him. But I was there in time for Idols. They were punk as hell, man. They were really punk. They were really political. They were like, screw this. We're not happy about this, and we're not happy about that, and we're going to tell you about it. Yeah, I thought they were cool as hell. I loved how political they were. I guess they were along my political vibes. I guess secretly I'm a punk. They were like, yeah, man, screw fascism, screw anti-immigration policies and ideas. Immigrants help countries. Immigrants are pretty cool. Screw the fascists. Yeah, I'm here for that. I love that. That's my vibe. So they were sick, really cool. Never heard of them before. Had a little listen to them on the way back. Reminded me of my punk roots. Reminded me of maybe the Foo Fighters roots. I'm going to talk about a little bit here. But I guess the question that I'm going to ask is, like, how the Foo Fighters are still relevant. For those of you who don't know, the Foo Fighters are led by Dave Grohl. And his ensemble of various musicians. They've been active since the mid 90s, mid to late 90s, because originally Dave Grohl, for those everyone probably knows if they're watching this video, but he was the drummer for Nirvana, and he used to be in a band called Scream before that. He was in a lot of the Seattle punk scene in the late 80s. Then he got to the grunge scene with Nirvana, and then everything around Nirvana happened. Kurt Cobain unfortunately unalived himself. Then Dave, a few years later, started the Foo Fighters. So this band has been going on now for like 20 years? Like 20 years. More than 20 years. 20 years was 2006. Oh, 30 years almost. Okay, 30 years now. And I guess to me that's really interesting, because I think about and reflect on the music, what's been popular, what's kind of been the vibe, I guess, for the past 30 years. And like in the 90s, yeah, it was grunge. It was like rock music. It was like, that was the popular music people listened to. That was the music, right? I guess you could also say there was some like electronic music coming into the popular scene with like trance and like this, like you could say some like house music and stuff was really big in the 90s. But then in the like 2000s, there was like the really kind of cheesy pop, the hyper pop, the Britney Spears kind of pop music of the time. But and then the 2010s, you had a bunch of the party club music. There was club music throughout, but that's what I felt I saw was the mainstream music of the time, right? So guitar music kind of faded out, right, over the decades, I would say, from the mainstream eye, from the mainstream purview anyway. So how the hell did the Foo Fighters stay relevant? I went to this concert. This was an Olympic stadium. It was jam-packed. huge venue, awesome venue. How do a bunch of dudes from Seattle playing rock music stay relevant from 90, 96, 97 when they started to 2026? You know, I'm 31, okay? The band's almost as old as I am, and I'm in my 30s. So, I got some thoughts on that. How do they stay relevant? I think that there's a really interesting mix for me musically. What the Foo Fighters do, they do the pop and intensity balance, right? Like Dave's played with Paul McCartney, the Beatles. He's got a lot of pop influences. He's talked a lot about that in a lot of different kind of interviews he's done and books and stuff. He's one of my favorite musicians, so I've seen a lot of those. And I think something that helps Dave stay really relevant is understand how to keep people's attention. I think he's a performer first and foremost, and I guess that's something that really struck me seeing him live, was like he knows how to work a crowd, he knows how to put on a show. And I think that showmanship and that golden retriever energy is really in his head a lot. He's actively, consciously doing that. I mean, he, in the concert himself, said like, who's been to a Foo Fighters concert before? And then a lot of people were like, hey, me. I wasn't one of them because it's my first time at a Foo Fighters concert. And then like, who hasn't been to a Foo Fighters concert first? And I was like, yeah, me. And then Dave was like, I'm gonna get you motherfuckers. That's what he said. I'm gonna get you motherfuckers. And that made me think, this man is thinking about how to keep himself relevant, right? He's thinking about, how can I keep this thing churning? Keep people hooked into the idea of the Foo Fighters, right? I think Dave's kind of a marketing genius. I think this is kind of what's kept him so relevant and kept him in the public eye. It's his whole life, his whole brand as a human, right? The nice guy in rock. Yeah, he cheated on his wife recently. His mom died. His best friend died. You know, I'm even giving him grace here because I like him. And some people might be like, that's a bad thing to do, to cheat on people. And I agree. That cheating on people is a bad thing to do. I would not do that personally. I think that's a bad thing. But even I'm like, man, cut the guy some slack. He's a cool guy. You know, I see my bias here. And I think that's how he stayed relevant. He's had this really consistent brand of being like the super chill family guy who's always been really punk rock. But I'd say kind of corpo punk rock these days. He's like, I want to keep people's attention. Because I think something that Dave understands that maybe a lot of the musicians don't understand to the level he does is that, like, ultimately a band is a company. A band is a corporation. A band is a marketing outfit, right? In how Dave's thinking about it. And he's thinking, how can I get people through the door invested in the brand of the Foo Fighters, right? And I think the idea of a rebellious streak, but it also being kind of socially acceptable, that kind of balance, I think, that the Foo Fighters strike, where they like are a bit like, I'm a rebel, but I'm also not an asshole, is a really hard balance to strike. And I think that's where the Foo Fighters like slice into as a niche, in terms of like what their persona is to the world, right? They're like, we're nice rebels, we're like nice dudes, we're all like a happy family, we're a nice vibe, we bring our families to the concert, and we're professionals as well, right? We come in and we smash it, and we play our music, and we just go hard, and we give more to the fans. Who was talking about like giving more, you know, almost using like social media logic. I guess is really interesting for me, being a social media native. He was like, we're coming to the end, we're gonna have one more song, we're gonna make it cool and badass, and just keep engaged, watch till the end kind of logic. And I think it's really clever for somebody of Dave's generation to really be tapped into the attention logic in the landscape we find ourselves in. So I think they do that in a lot of their releases. I think they release music very intentionally, because I know Dave's talked about historically that like they could play like jazz or play all these other like weird bits of music, but ultimately that doesn't have people dancing. He wants people dancing, right? He wants people engaged. He wants people present. He wants people to have a good time. That's his focus as a musician. That's his focus in terms of what he puts out for the Foo Fighters. That's why he does what he does and why he writes the songs he writes. And I think there's always a marketing angle in Dave's head. Every single release, every single appearance, I think there's a part of it that's genuine, but I think he's such a committed performer in the persona of the Foo Fighters. He is the Foo Fighters, right? You couldn't replace Dave Grohl in the Foo Fighters. If you put a new singer in the Foo Fighters, it wouldn't be the Foo Fighters anymore. That's how cult leader he is. He could be a cult leader. Dave's got that kind of charisma, right? He's got that cult leader charisma. Well, he's got a really powerful, strong direction he's going in, and he's open, but he's also tenacious, and he's got a strong direction, a strong character, and I think that kind of magnetic frontman, coupled with saying no to the system, and coupled with, I'd argue, being on the right side of history most of the time, but I feel like charisma and good values, I guess, is where he lands. And I think a lot of people really connect with that. I think most normal people want to have a good time. I think that's what Dave offers. A good time with some passion, some feeling. You know, when I saw the Foo Fighters, I literally was almost crying most of the time. Because for me, I've wanted to see the Foo Fighters live since I was 16. And I got tickets when I was 22, and that was the gig. Dave broke his leg, and it was cancelled in Milton Keynes in the UK, and I finally got to see him, so it was really a full circle moment for me. I literally was crying so much trying to sing along to the songs. I was forgetting the lyrics. I was so emotional. It was a lot for me, but probably because Dave's always had this mantra, this meme, this whatever you want to call it, the brand, the Foo Fighters, is very powerful, very touching for me emotionally in my experience. I really resonate with a lot of the Foo Fighters music. That's just me. But that's why I think they've been so relevant. I'd love to hear what you think. You've been wonderful. I've been Will. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.